Hello, today I'm going to be updating you on the changes that have been made to the 229 schema between the first public review draft version, which was 0.036, and the latest version, 0.1.7, which we are going to be voting on to be put out for the second public review. As an overview, the Schema working group has met a bunch of times, 14 times, between the first public review and May. We've made a huge number of changes to different files. We have fixed a large number of issues that were posted by different people, including the RDS development team and also people who are trying to write export implementations for RPD. The pull request for this is listed there, and I'm going to show you a little bit. So here is what it looks like on GitHub. These are all the pull requests. And this one here is the difference between the first and public review and the current version. There's a lot of, this shows you all the changes that were made to it. There's a lot more than that even. But if you click on File Changes here, and you'll see the specific changes to the files. If you're used to looking at JSON schema files, you can do that by looking at the changes to the JSON schema, which are all shown here. There are a lot of them. I personally tend to use the YAML file for my looking at the changes. Let's see, where is that? Sorry, I am trying to find the right files. Oh, here they are. So in the schema source folder, that's right. So the YAML file, I think, is a little easier to look at, but again, it's not something that everyone is completely familiar with. But basically, it shows you the difference on a line-by-line basis of all the changes in a little easier format, I think, than the JSON schema to understand. So you can certainly scroll through this and see all the changes to the main schema file, plus any other changes you want to in this pull request. Getting back to the presentation, so of all the changes that were made, the schema changes are primarily originally changed in the YAML files, and you can see that the extra schema file has changed, plus some of the enumeration files, the output file, and the RPD generation software test report schema. Two of the files have not been changed, which are the RCT output test report schemas for project and software. So I'm going to walk through these major data groups that have changed. First one is meta, the metadata group. So let me find that for you. So this is a brand new data group that was added basically because it's just a common use case to have metadata. It's described in SPC or in Standard 232 and is also been adopted by Standard 205, I believe. So it includes basic information about the schema that most of it was actually already located in other places, so such as the schema author, schema name, that kind of thing. So these are all things that I think have been seen before. Some were added, but you should take a look at these and understand what changes are about the schema. As I said, this is all about meta information about the schema. So it includes kind of overall information about the author and such. The other major data groups that have changed have to do with material, constructions, surface water heating use, and the output model. Let me show you those. So in the rule set model description data group, there was always a list of things like transformers, buildings, schedules. And to go along with that, we've now relocated materials and constructions to this location. That makes it, I think, a little bit easier to understand and reference them in other places. So that was materials and constructions here. Actually, schedules I boxed here, but it was there before. And then service water heating use is here also. Oh, and then the input and output change it, or the output changes. Let's see. Rule set project description now references the output that is like the overall output here. And since there's this output is basically general information, and then the rule set model description output, this has basically been split to, this one's called model output, is for an instance of the results. This avoids some duplication that we had before in the output schema. And let me just show you that really quick. So the overall output, this is the one that's referenced in the project level data group, and it shows you information that is basically at the project level. So the performance cost index and other things that the index targets that are going to be at the project level, whereas the instance level is about a specific simulation. So it'll have things like the unmet loads, and then it also references annual end use results and annual source results, and those are the details from all of the information that's needed for the simulation right then, for each particular simulation. So there were a lot of, I'm not going to go through all the changes, there were just too many. But just to go through some of the higher level things, there were a huge number of notes changed. This was driven primarily because the data element was not clearly identified or described before. And during RCT development, people had questions, and so things were updated. These were all reviewed and debated by the Schema working group. This is also the case for a lot of enumeration changes that were made. And in general, descriptions and field names were made more consistent. Fans also, we used to have a lot of different ways of describing fans in different locations. There were fans in cooling towers, there's fans in HVAC systems and other places, and they kind of had all sorts of different descriptions, and so we've basically created a single data group for fans, or we're using a single data group for fans all over now instead of having different ones. Surface water heating improved quite a bit because that was being developed by the RCT development team. The schedule, I guess this one, well, I'll just talk through it. There used to be a data element called purpose. We removed that. It wasn't being used for describing a schedule. And we also added hourly design day, hourly design information for schedules to allow for more flexibility there, although it is more complicated now. Calendars were simplified a little bit. We had some data elements that weren't being used. We had a a bunch of data elements in different places called is sized based on design day. And we change those to just is calculated size to clarify how they're made, they're calculated, rather than being so specific there. And then we also had a lot of data groups that were about that were called validation points. These are really different operating points for equipment that were providing detailed performance, and those have been unified to be called operating points instead. And then we previously were using lists of metrics and values to describe the efficiency of, let's say, a furnace or something else that might have multiple metrics that are associated with it. And we've used that consistently throughout the schema now. And I guess you've probably noticed the word consistently has been talked about a lot. I think that in many respects, the changes that we've made were to make things more consistent and clear. So I guess as an illustration of the changes, I don't know how many of you use diffing utilities, but this is showing the changes basically line by line in a file, and all the colored changes are ones that indicate changes to the schema. So we really did touch a lot of the schema, and that's why I don't think it makes sense to try to go through all of the changes today. If you're interested, you can go through them yourself with the pull request, or downloading the original and the existing schema files and diffing them yourself. There are a lot of changes, and if anyone has any specific questions, I'd be happy to answer them. And finally, that brings us to the end of the presentation. I want to thank the active schema working group members. They have provided, they have a lot of perseverance to have gone to so many more meetings and go through so many details that exist in the schema. And they've also provided review and feedback on the schema. So it's really been a wonderful group of people. And I also wanted to thank specifically the RDS development team members who basically trying to help implement the RCT portion of the schema, have gone through and really looked at a lot of the details and provided a lot of feedback also. So that's it. If you have any questions, please reach out and let me know. And I hope this has provided enough information for you to be comfortable voting on the upcoming ballot. So thank you.